Entrepreneurs aren't born, they're brewed. You are now listening to the Entrepreneur Podcast with your host, Adam McChesney. Let's grow!
Hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome to another episode of the Entrepreneur Podcast. I am your host, Adam McChesney, and I want to thank you for being here today. If you're listening, please be sure to subscribe to the show and leave us a 5-star review on Apple and Spotify. We would love for you to share this on social media by tagging me and our guests, and this way we can get this incredible content out to more people. Today, actually back-to-back episodes, I'm interviewing somebody that I got a chance to meet at our TCS event in Costa Rica this past summer, and they were both speakers. This next guest, he's one of the brightest minds I've met. He gave an amazing talk around AI in today's world, which I know I get asked about AI all of the time. So I'm excited to not only get to talk a little bit more about that, but get to know him better. I know a little bit about his story, but we'll dive into more of that today. I was actually lucky enough to be a guest on his podcast just last week. My guest today is Mark de Grasse. He is the president at DigitalMarketer. Mark, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks so much for having me. That was a great talk last week too. So thank you for being an awesome guest as well.
Yeah, you're a great podcast host. The conversation flowed well, and I have no doubt this podcast is going to do the same. So just flip the script.
All right, let's do it. What do you want to know?
Yeah, so man, if you wouldn't mind just giving our audience just a quick rundown of kind of who you are, what you do, but really how you got started in entrepreneurship and anything you want to add in between.
Awesome. Well, I have been doing content marketing for about 20 years. I kind of have a cycle of taking an executive role every 5 years or so, and then I have a company in between, and then I just grow like that. So it all kind of started after college. I worked for a tech startup that was serving the educational market for communicating teachers to parents. Mm-hmm. And so we had a device, and this is back in the early 2000s, that actually sent messages from the teacher directly to the parents in their home language. So it's kind of like this revolutionary thing. Still kind of neat because a lot of schools don't have it, but yeah. That's where I got my start. But after kind of helping them raise capital and doing a lot of business development there, I wanted to get to e-commerce. And so I actually needed a product to sell. A friend of mine was actually doing kettlebells at the time, which in early 2000s, that was brand new. Nobody did that kind of stuff. And so I was like, oh, sure, you do the fitness stuff. I'll do the back end. I'll do the website. I'll do the marketing. I'll do all the media editing. I never wanted to be in front of a camera. And so it worked out well until it didn't. And so during that time, we had started a magazine. We had a gym. We had a e-commerce business where we imported, equipment from China. And then we actually resold it with, the content being the main platform. And so I figured, hey, if we create articles and workouts and exercise videos and all this different content around a kettlebell or around a heavy club or around a sandbag, all these different kind of unconventional fitness methods, then we could make money. And since we know an entire network of thousands of trainers, they can make the content for it. We'll, refine the content. We'll get it out. They'll get exposure. We'll get the traffic. And then now we have a content marketing platform built off of completely organic methods. So we did that, eventually, grew the business. I sold the company to a company called On It here in Austin, Texas. At the time, it was owned by Joe Rogan and a few other people. And so I converted my magazine content into the On It Academy at the time, which was their kind of educational base. And so I formed the organization, recruited the trainers, helped build the gym, built their certification program, which was its own content beast, and then the kind of hierarchy and structure around a certifying organization. And all this was all content based. So was there for about a year. Then I left, wrote a book called Unconventional Marketing, where I kind of outlined all the things that I did to grow the company originally and then how I sold it. And then tried to implement the same path for about 300 clients that I personally work with over 5-6 years of owning an agency after that. What I found with that process was that entrepreneurs and small business owners don't want to be marketers. And so I was trying to teach them. So I basically say, okay, we're going to build your brand, build your website, build your funnel, do all these things. Then I'm going to create custom videos showing you how to make all of it work together. And so I would create 30 to 50 videos for each client showing them, here you go. And then I'd throw the package to them, say, go conquer the world. It only worked about 5% of the time. The rest of the time, my clients wanted somebody to do it for them. And so I had the realization after only half a decade that I should be working with marketers instead of working with small business owners necessarily, who could then help the small business owners. So I got an opportunity to work as a content strategist for DigitalMarketer and Scalable and that whole suite of companies. And eventually they said, hey, we're going to, make a big drive for DigitalMarketer again. And so they asked me if I wanted to be the president. So became the president of DigitalMarketer. And I've been helping teach marketing to marketers since then. So that's not that short story of my background. There were other things. I owned a chip and dip company, and I had a few other projects going during that 20-year time frame, but those are the big milestones.
I love that. It's a great story. There's a lot of stuff to unpack in there, and one of the questions that I want to unpack, because I kind of went into when I merged and became a partner at All of Height recently. I also now have a role within the company, and I think a lot of people are like, "Oh, I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm an entrepreneur. I always have to be the CEO of everything and have to run all the shots." You've had some different progressions where you've owned the business, then you've had an executive role, own the business, and kind of back and forth. At what point were you like, hey, it's time to go to do an executive role, and then, hey, it's time to go run my own business again? Walk us through some of that stuff, because I'm selfishly asking that question.
No, it's a great question. And well, I always tell people, if you can't follow, you can't lead. Or if you can't follow, you shouldn't lead. So when you get in kind of the ego mindset of like, well, people see me as the boss, or I'm always in charge, or I'm the person running things, and that's who I am, and blah, blah, blah. It's like, no. Every situation is different. And believe it or not, you don't know everything. So there's lots of learning to do. And there's a great way to learn, and it's called getting a job. And then they pay you and you get to learn, and everybody wins. And so I had that same thing, because in my 20s, I was the same way. I was like, you know what? I'm either an executive or I'm a business owner. Those are the two things I do. And, when you really break it down, it all just comes down to ego and your need to be perceived as the person in charge or the winner, whatever it is. But at the end of the day, who gives a crap? It's just you. You're the one that matters to you. So go ahead and embrace that. And if you need to take a role in order to learn more about something, then take a role and do it. That you don't have to struggle through everything. You don't even have to pay for school to learn anything. Just get a job, and then you could work with it. One of my favorite stories of this taking place is, the Donut King. It's a documentary on Netflix about this Cambodian refugee that actually came to America and then basically saved everybody that he was with by showing them how to make donut shops. But what he did to do that was he got a job at Winchell's. And then he learned how to make donuts. And then he basically told everybody they worked with, as he helped them start their donut shop, go work at a Winchell's. Yeah. And then Winchell's essentially trained all of these entrepreneurs how to own their own shop. Yeah. And so all these successful people in Southern California, which is I learned that's why I love the donuts from where I grew up, was because the Donut King actually helped set up all these donut shops around me. So that's just what I thought donut shops were. Yeah. These amazing donuts. So, but that's kind of the gist of it. It's, what do you need to learn? Yeah. And then don't be, to get the chip off your shoulder. Just go learn from somebody else. Nobody cares. You'll make money.
No, I think you hit the head on the nail right there, or the nail on the head. Talking about the chip on the shoulder and the ego, I think that's what holds a lot of people back. It's not that they don't know that they don't. People know that they don't know everything. People know that they have blind spots and weaknesses and all those things, but they'll run into the ground because they're hard-headed before they actually ask for help. They know that they probably need it, but they're like, all right, I need to go do that. And it was very similar for me. Like, I ran my agency for 2 years as a franchise of Height, grew from next to nothing to 2.25 million. I grew really, really quick, but I knew that I needed to be in a different position in order to really reach that next level for both the business, but also myself as well. I had no aspirations of trying to do it all on myself anymore and try to grow that. But it did take that unveiling of like who I needed to become in order to get to that next level. And it is kind of an ego hit of walking away of like, oh, it's all mine. It's all mine. And now it's like, all right, now I'm part of something bigger, which is great as well.
Yes. And that's really the main point, is that not only can you, be better, but you can do it in a way that's organic and has to do with helping other companies too. So if you need to look at it like that, like, hey, your skills are needed by this big giant company. I'm sorry. Then that's fine,
Yeah.
you know? And, you know, if you do think, because I always think in terms of personal brand too, where it's like, hey, if you really want to grow your personal brand, like you need these status markers, you need this evidence that you could work as a team, that you could lead, you know, big groups of people, that you could step down once necessary in order to make the company and all the people within the company better. And that's fine. You know, that's part of life. And honestly, if you've always been the person, I would say there's two types of entrepreneurs. There's the person who has to do something because they're the only ones that can get it done. They're the only ones that see the vision. They're the only ones that can make it happen. Then, can we cuss on this podcast? Or is that
go ahead.
Okay.
Knock yourself out.
Then there's assholes that can't work for anybody else because they're assholes. So, you know, when you're looking at somebody who's like a lifetime entrepreneur and blah, 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 it's like, oh, that's so neat that you're able to do that. Also, are you impossible to work with? And that's why you end up you control everything.
That's the underlying situation.
Yeah. Which one do you want to be?
Yeah. No, I love that. I love that. So talk to us a little bit, obviously, about some of the key ingredients that have made you successful. So if you had to pinpoint 3 things that you're like, hey, these are the 3 things that have helped me, whether it's been in an executive role or being an entrepreneur, or a combination of all that, what are those 3 things if you had to pinpoint them?
You know, I think and it goes back to what we've already said, like humility. You know, if you're humble enough to accept yourself for what you are and what you aren't, then that's going to allow you to do anything, because there's no expectations when you're just being humble. You recognize your strengths, you recognize your weaknesses, and you're able to take that information and make choices that are just good for whatever you're trying to achieve, whether it's an ego hit or not, then whatever. Humility will allow you to grow more than almost anything else. And then gratitude, which is kind of related to humility, but it's, you know, being grateful for everything that you have and that you have achieved and that you're capable of doing. And this isn't necessarily stuff, because I think we always default to like, well, how much money do you have in the bank? But it's community. You know, do you have a family that loves you? Do you have friends that will be there when you need them to be there? Do you have a community that surrounds the place that you live that's going to support you even if things go wrong? You know, those are success measures to me, because if you have those things, then, you know, you could lose everything, but you'll still live. And so that's, you know, being grateful for what you have and really identifying those things that make you who you are going to be enormous for allowing you to grow. And then, you know, the third one's kind of a double-edged sword, but discipline and hard work. You know, it's no matter what, like, I don't care how many 4-hour work week books there are out and how much they totally make sense. I think it's a bunch of bullshit. I think the majority of things that you do that are worthwhile required a ton of effort, a ton of pain, a ton of work, a ton of failure to lead you to the final success. And you can't get through all of those things that are, you know, objectively unpleasant unless you have discipline and the ability to work really hard, no matter if things are going good or bad, but just keep on pushing. And maybe it's harder to be like that when things are going good, because it's like, well, I'm doing great. I don't need to change anything. I could just sit here and cash checks and I'll be great. And it's like, well, F you. Yeah. I'm sorry, but I can learn nothing from you, because everything lands on your lap. And who cares about that? I want to hear the struggles. I want to hear what you've been through. I want to hear why you kept going and why you finally made it out the other side. Like, that's the story. That's what we create all good stories from, is that situation. It's not, oh, guy was Superman and then he grew up and everybody loved him and he saved everything. And then he got older and everybody loved him and blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh, God, that's boring. Nothing in life works like that. I can't identify with that at all. So whatever. So yeah, those 3 things, humility, gratitude, and discipline. Now, there is a flip side to discipline. I won't get into that right now, but there is such thing as too much discipline. It's called over control. It's actually a psychological concept that involves your inability to let go. And so there's a balance with all of those things. But yeah, if you have elements of those 3 aspects, you're going to do well.
Yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I think gratitude is one thing people struggle with. I know I've struggled with it in the past, and I'm working on it and trying to get better. How do you practice gratitude? I guess is one question. And then how do you practice gratitude on the roller coaster of entrepreneurship when things are super low and things are super high, stopping in the moment it's really hard to be like, man, things are going so good, I really need to be grateful. Or even worse, when things aren't going good, I need to stop and realize how far I've came and what I actually have going for me.
Oh man, the gratitude side is I think one of the toughest emotions to like really embrace, because it doesn't feel natural. And honestly, we've all been trained to not be satisfied. Keep on pushing, keep on working, get to the top, blah, 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 blah. And we've all just been inundated with this messaging that there's no stop. There's never a stop. You just go harder and then you get better and then you make $1 billion. But what about $10 billion? Oh, you made $10 billion. What about $1 trillion? It's just like, oh my gosh, really? We're supposed to just go forever and just, there's no limit. We can't do anything else. We just have to keep on, guys. It's like, no, that's so unproductive. And so, the gratitude side says, no, stop, think about what you currently have. And if you need to think about what other people have in order to make you appreciate what you have, then go ahead and do that, because that's fine too. Like, hey, yeah, oh man, I really want to buy that 10,000 square foot house and mine's only 5,000 square feet. It's things like, no, you're in the top 1%. Like, let's go ahead and say you're doing all right. And so you can use the comparison, but also just the appreciation of what you've had and maybe remembering what it took to get there. When I had a big kind of awakening last year, and it was after I had achieved all the things that I thought I wanted to achieve. So I made a list of things and I wanted to get all this stuff and accomplish all these things. And then I just knocked it off the list. And then I got to finishing it and I'm like, oh my gosh, I thought happiness was at the end of this process. And it's not. It's just, I'm just in a different place doing different things. And I got all these things I wanted to achieve, but what does it actually mean? And without gratitude, it means nothing. So none of that stuff means anything. So you have to embrace the successes. So it's not just about like, getting through the slog and the horribleness. It's like, no, you already did a lot. Like, go ahead and give yourself a pat on the back, give yourself some, encouragement and self-love, and then say, hey, I'm doing all right. Things aren't perfect right now, but things are never perfect all the time or forever. And the reason why they're special when they go really well is because they suck the rest of the time. So let's go ahead and be grateful. It took a while to get here. Identify all those things you had to achieve to accomplish the thing that you achieved, and then be grateful for it, and identify it and feel it. And then go ahead and move forward. Like, I am so grateful that I achieved this and I was able to achieve this, and I'm going to go out and help other people do the same thing. And that's the next level. So when you actually get past that, like you accomplish all the things you want to accomplish, great, good for you. Now let's see, the next level is seeing how many people you could help do the same thing. And then now you have something that's inclusive and community driven. And now you got to be grateful for everything that happens, whether it's your achievement or anybody else's achievement. You feel great about it too. And so, I don't know if that answers the question, but
no, it definitely does. And I love that you mentioned a couple things there, just the practice of gratitude and how to look at it from both angles, in terms of when things are good, when things are bad. But I liked what you talked about of writing down all those things and being like, okay, I felt that something was going to change at the end of it. And that's something that like I have felt in so many people that I talk to. When I first got into digital marketing, everybody's like, you got to have a 7-figure agency. It's what everybody wants to do. I did it in 15 months and I was like, okay, if I get there, everything else is going to be fixed. I'm going to be making the money I need to. I'm going to have the team I need to. I'm going to have the clients. And then you like get there and you're like, what in the heck? Like, this isn't anything special, but it's because what everybody else said that you needed to do. And then now that I've done multiple 7 figures, people are like, Adam, we just want to get to 7 figures. I'm like, but why? Like, if it's just because of what everybody else is doing, or if it's from the money or whatever you think happens on the other end of that hill, I go, there is no top there. Like, it's not like some trophy that you get there and then on the other side you're like, okay, wow, the world has completely changed. There's just bigger and more sophisticated problems. And if you're not ready for that and you don't understand what that will do for you, and then the biggest identity crisis I had last year was when I hit my first 7 figures. That's what I thought I was going to do in 3 to 5 years. And then when I did it in 15 months, I was like, crap, like, what next? And then I sat there for 6 months and I continued to think about being a 7-figure agency owner, not a multi-7-figure agency owner. So I was still making the decisions. I was really, really good in the beginning of getting started. I'm like, I'm going to start thinking, I'm going to start hiring, I'm going to start doing the activities of a 7-figure agency owner when I'm doing $10,000 a month. Well, then when I got there, I hadn't been thinking about the next level. And that's where so much of that anxiety and stress and depression and just like identity crisis came in. Like, who am I? I don't even know what's going on.
Yeah. Well, and the problem with that is that nobody's going to hear your suffering. They're going to be like, okay, rich guy.
Yeah.
Oh, is life tough? And then you're like, oh, crap. Okay, well, you're right. I should be grateful that I achieved this thing. But on the flip side is it's like, well, it didn't really accomplish anything for me personally. I had to realize that, and I kind of realized this a long time ago, but money's not a huge driver for me personally. Like if I had come from the place of being completely destitute before. And when you get to that level, you realize like, oh, you're still alive.
Yep.
There's still joy to be had. You could still hang out with your family, or everybody's situation is different, but you start to be grateful for what you do have. And so I think it's tough for people because everybody thinks that money's going to fix everything and accomplishment is going to fix everything and blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, you got to look at yourself right now. I don't care about tomorrow. Tomorrow's a different person, by the way. Like there's different lessons and going to be incorporated into who you are at that moment. So really focus about right now, like what is it actually going to do, and envision yourself. Oh, you made $10 million and you bought the car and you went on vacation and then you helped out your family and you did all these things. Now what? And then if you don't have an answer for that, then it's like, okay, well, and that's why you see some of these people, and especially billionaires, because billionaires always go, oh, look at those billionaires. They shouldn't have so much money. It's like, who cares? That's the result of all the effort they put in and the deals they made. And some are bad and some are good and whatever. But, they are the group that realize like, one, money, you can make money doing whatever you want. Two, no level of money is going to negate the risk of being broke at some point. Now, we've all seen billionaires go broke too. Millionaires go broke too. And every single lottery owner goes broke too. And so it's not about the money. The money is nothing. It's all made up anyway. So it's like the value that you put within that stack of money says more about you than anything. But you could do two ways. You could realize that right now and start making decisions based on real objectives and real self-growth and real, actualization of who you are and what you want. Or you could go the dumb way, which is what you and I did, which is accomplish everything and then find out that it doesn't mean anything without some kind of other purpose involved with it. So you have an option. Now, our way's not bad.
Yeah. You learn a lot. You learn a lot. Yeah, you learn a lot. And if you take it as a learning lesson, then it doesn't get much better than that. But man, I learned a lot from this episode today. Got to know you better. I really enjoyed our conversation. A lot of insights around gratitude, just appreciation for where you're at and really what the journey looks like. It's not, everybody's journey is different. That's why I literally call it entrepreneur. Entrepreneurs our tagline is they're born, not brewed. You have all these different pillars, right? It's a mountain. It's a continuous journey. It's not a destination. You go from one thing to the next. So, man, I really appreciate you coming on. Any last words of advice for the entrepreneurs listening to this podcast? Anything you'd like to leave them with?
This is going to be cliche, but I'm going to say it anyways because it resonates so much. But you got to do something that you like, and it has to have some purpose outside of paying the bills or making you a millionaire or doing anything like that. Like find something you enjoy. It will make you so competitive in your space that nobody will be able to touch you because the majority of people and the majority of spaces are just doing it to pay the bills and make money and do these other shallow objectives. And if you just say, I'm doing this because I love doing it, and whether I got paid for it or not, I would still be doing that. You'll be untouchable because nobody has that for the most part. So figure out something you like to do and then go at it like crazy because you just enjoy it. If you can figure that out, and I'm still personally figuring that out, so I'm hardly one to talk about this, but it's an objective of mine. So I think if everybody had that same objective, which is to own a business or work for a business that you would do anyways, you'll not work any day in your life because it's all work, but you'll be much happier while you do it.
That's a good mic drop to end the episode. Mark, I really appreciate you coming on. Where can people stay connected with you online?
Well, for marketing education, go to digitalmarketer.com, and then about me. And I do share some things like AI prompting and indexes of information and tutorials, stuff like that. You can go to markdegrasse.com, and I try to share everything. I'm trying to be as inclusive and, free as possible. So check it out. I try to put good stuff on there.
No, you do great stuff, man. I'm looking forward to staying connected, building our relationship, and looking forward to seeing you again soon, man. So thank you so much for coming on the episode.
Thanks a lot, Adam. Appreciate the time.
And I want to thank you again to the audience today. Be sure to check out Mark and follow him. He's got some amazing stuff going on. You'll definitely get some more value outside of this episode. Please be sure to subscribe and download and share our content. Leaving a 5-star review goes a long way. We'll see y'all next week. And remember, entrepreneurs aren't born, they are brewed.
I'm an entrepreneur, entrepreneurs on born, they're brewed. Thank you for listening to Entrepreneur Podcast with your host, Adam McChesney.